Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, Opie, initially in a prosperous marriage, faces financial strain when his father struggles with medical bills. Requesting his wife to cut back on spending for family support, she resents the limits. Suspecting cheating, he discovers secret messages, revealing an affair with a wealthy lawyer. Confrontation leads to divorce, financial recovery, and a new relationship. Now let's get into the story. The mayor to my wife 30 was all fun and games until I 31 needed her to compromise with me. When we got married at 24 and 25 years old, I was extremely well off already. I'd been working at my father's company since I was 18 and had several raises over that time and savings built up. My wife was able to get her nails and hair done whenever she wanted. I bought her a nice car and made sure it was always safe and legal. She didn't have anything to worry about, and she got everything she wanted. She was a good wife to me and never acted suspiciously or unhappy. The only thing I expected of her was to be there and have dinner ready when I got home from work. It all changed when my dad began struggling to pay medical bills for my mom. I told him I was more than willing to help, but it meant I had to tell my wife to cut back on her spending. I asked her to spend less than $200 a month on pointless things. Of course, I didn't say it was pointless spending. I called it fun money. She was appalled. She didn't know how to spend as little as $200. I told her this sacrifice was for my mom, but that didn't seem to justify it for her. 1 month later, while I was doing our expenses, I calculated that she spent $821 over what we could afford. When I confronted her about it, she blew up on me. She said she couldn't possibly stop buying the things she needed to survive. When I asked her what she was talking about, she named a haircut, nail fillings, a new purse, Bath and Body Works, new clothes, and new shoes. I could tell she really believed she needed these things. I was starting to realize I married a heartless, materialistic woman. I told her this couldn't happen again. My dad and mom needed our financial help for a while, and it wasn't asking very much of her. She still didn't like it, but she said she would try harder. The next month, while I reviewed our purchases, I found she got gas in a town 2 hours away. This shocked me. I had no idea she even left town. I decided it was much better not to bring it up with her. Instead, I got a GPS tracker and put it on her car. I was going to accumulate proof that she was using my money to see someone behind my back. Surprisingly, that month, her spending decreased from $821 over to only $305 over. Still bad, but she tried. I told her she was doing better, but I needed her to cut back even more. She wasn't as upset as she was the first time, which actually raised a red flag for me. Was she spending someone else's money? 1 month later, I had a record of all the trips my wife made while I was at work. There was a lot of shopping in a town that was 2.5 hours away. It didn't make sense because her spending was way down. Only $168 total. What was happening? That's when I discovered she made trips to a specific neighborhood address 2.5 hours away. She visited this address and places near it on 10 days out of the month. On 5 other days, she went shopping in our area but didn't spend any money. How was that possible? I knew at this point she had to be seeing someone else, someone that provided money. My wife was pretty simple-minded and her password for everything was the same for years. I finally caved in and got into her phone while she slept. I found a secret messaging app which involved text conversation with someone programmed as lover. How disturbing. My heart was pounding as I read their conversation, which started 2.5 months ago. Around the same exact time, I told her she needed to cut back on her spending. She complained to this person that she was being cheated on, but didn't want to go through a divorce until she got revenge. So she lied to this man, and he gladly volunteered to sleep with her. He was a lonely older man who had money to spare because he was a lawyer. She found her perfect target. They sent each other pictures of private areas, and she thanked him for treating her to things. In response to that, he thanked her for the intimate. I can't tell you how mad I was. I never felt this level of betrayal. I woke her up and demanded she leave the house. She was shocked and offended, but all I had to do was throw her phone outside and she followed it. I locked all the doors and threw her car keys out the window. I shouted that she was lucky I even let her take the car because I bought it. She was crying and making excuses. I told her I saw everything she said to her lover, noticed the change in her spending habits, and had her GPS location throughout the month. She had the nerve to be upset with me. She screamed outside my house for an hour before she finally got in her car and drove away. The GPS showed she went to AP's house. I filed for divorce, and before it was even finalized, AP told her he didn't want her to live with him. He wasn't ready for a serious relationship. He just wanted to have some fun. I knew this because my wife confided in her pastor when she was homeless and begging the church for money. He was confused because as far as he knew, we were still married. While begging for money, she asked him to pray for her. I think she needs more than prayer. Word got around in our church and a single lady approached me and asked me on a date. Shortly after that, the divorce was final and my wife only got to keep her car. Everything else was mine. Due to the proof I had against her, my mom managed to recover from her health issues, and my income went back to normal in less than a year. That was the best part. Out of all of this, I made sure to tell my ex that she left me because she was materialistic and impatient. I hope my story encourages everyone to be hopeful in the face of betrayal. Life goes on, even if it doesn't involve that person anymore. Also, don't fall for any materialistic girls, because they have a lot of growing up to do. Today's second story. In this story, Opie, eagerly awaiting intimacy after his wife's childbirth recovery, discovered her cheating with their baby's pediatrician. In a confrontation, he exposed the affair, leading to a divorce. With legal support, he gained custody, ensuring the doctor's professional consequences. The wife, now living with her strict mother, faces the repercussions. Despite the turmoil, the husband embraces a new life with his son, emphasizing self-love and trust. He reflects on the importance of resilience and cherishing life, maintaining a cautious approach to future relationships. Now let's get into the story. My wife was recovering from having our first baby. Per the doctor's orders, we were waiting 8 weeks before having intimate. She was 24 and I was 26. I felt like we were too young to be parents, but at least we were married for 4 years before conceiving. This was the life I hoped for. I did everything right, according to my family, and it made me feel great. One person I met in my past told me that life isn't as simple and easy as I expected it to be, but I was goal-oriented and willing to follow any successful influencer's advice. I believed fate was on my side. Even with what I'm about to tell you, I still believe fate is on my side, because otherwise, I may never have discovered the truth. On one of the last days of waiting, I got a notification at work that there was motion detected outside our house and a box was delivered. I only worked 10 minutes away, and it was lunchtime, so I decided to pop by unexpectedly. Besides opening my package, I thought I might be able to seduce my wife for the first time in forever. I stopped for flowers. When I got to the house, there was a really nice car parked outside. I didn't recognize it. My original plan was to knock on the door and have her open it, but I decided to use my key. As soon as I walked in, I heard our bed squeaking upstairs. I barged into our bedroom door without realizing I broke it. I could not believe what met my eyes. My wife was sprawled out on our bed with our baby's pediatrician. She immediately sat up and grabbed her face, repeatedly saying no in disbelief. The doctor panicked and ran. I didn't care. I'd have him on camera fleeing our house with his loose pants, which meant I'd probably be able to prove he was sleeping with my wife, which would certainly get his license revoked. I noticed the baby sleeping in the bassinet, 6 feet away from his mother as she cheated on his father. My wife immediately began saying how sorry she was. She said he seduced her because he knew she waited long enough to heal. I wanted to throw up, but I was too angry and didn't want to appear vulnerable. I told her she was the sleazy, pathetic mother. I asked her why she couldn't have just said no, why she couldn't have just waited for me to get home. I felt myself starting to break down because I was realizing my marriage was over. I didn't want to forgive her. I didn't want to have intimate with her. I told her these things, and she wailed so loud she woke up the baby. My mind started working at a mile a second as I held and bounced our son. I told her that since she was breastfeeding, she could take him with her to her mom's house. Her mother was a strict Catholic, and I wasn't even sure she would let her daughter and grandson move in. She was going to be furious at her daughter's behavior, and I'd make sure she knew the truth at some point. My wife was freaking out, telling me what I already knew, that she would have nowhere to go if we told people the truth. I forced her to move back in with her mother by telling her our house was being fumigated. My Emile wasn't too fond of me, so she wouldn't even wonder where I was. After they moved out, a major twist happened. I got an anonymous typed note in the mailbox that said, "Leave me out of it, or you won't be around long enough for a second marriage." I was shocked, but immediately knew it was from the doctor. What a piece of crap. I was very amused when I checked our doorbell camera and found him escaping with his pants down. I went to the police and filed restraining orders on him and my wife. Then I made some phone calls. I had a big family, including one lawyer. He agreed to represent me. Before the court hearing, my ML was basically forcing my ex and son out of her house, so I had to tell her what my wife did and how I got a restraining order because my life was threatened. She was beside herself. She told me I needed to come get my son at least, so I did. My wife absolutely hated this, and I think that's why her mom did it. She was so upset with her, but couldn't kick her out. She had trouble looking at her the same way. As terrible as my Emile was, she knew how necessary and important loyalty to a spouse was. Then you add the fact that my wife was a new mother, cheating with her son's doctor. Before I left with our son, I heard them screaming at each other, and when my ML told her she wasn't mature enough to be a mother or wife, it was intense. But I'm sure my wife deserved this hellish new reality, stuck in her strict mother's house without me or her son. After the divorce, I was awarded primary custody of our son, and I was able to prove the doctors he was no longer allowed to practice, so he'll have to find something new to do with his life. I am so happy with the outcome from all this. I hate that it all happened, but this wasn't my fault, so I can only adjust and accept the change. She still calls me often, asking for help or complaining about things. She used to say sorry every time, but I told her to stop. I don't always answer her calls, but she does get visitation with our son. This event made me question a lot about life and relationships. I've realized how important it is to love and trust yourself. I knew I could get through this from the moment I was presented with the issue. I knew I had no choice but to go through it, and all I had was my own strength and willingness to go on. I enjoy my life because it's all I have than my son, and I have a whole new routine. My sister watches him while I'm at work, and she loves it. I enjoy my own company and my son's, and when it comes to dating, I just take it slow and make sure everything feels right about it. That's all anyone can do. I hope anyone reading this realizes how great it is to experience life at all. I won't let this painful end to my marriage make me question how wonderful life is.